Tommy Allen from TommyAllenMusic.com, and this week we have Paul Lamb from Paul Lamb and the King Snakes. Come check it out. Well, thank you for taking your time out and doing this with us today.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it. I've done a tiny bit of research and tried to dig up some questions that might be a bit different to what you've done before, maybe. I don't know, but we'll see how we go along. So you're born in July 1955, Northumberland, yes?
Yeah, that's right.
And your first band was sort of around age 15. So when did you start playing the harmonica first?
Well, I was about 12 or 13. And I was listening to folk music, really. I mean, like say, folk blues, like Sonny, Terry, Brownie McGee, and some of the early players, you know. And that got me into the folk clubs. That was my foot in the door.
But how did you find the blues? Was it a family relative or?
Not really. I mean, to cut a long story short, I would say it was a mate of mine had an album by John Mayall and the Blues Breakers.
Yeah.
And I started listening to that, and it really got me into it, you know. So I looked at John's credits and backtracked on his things, and what came up was Sonny Boy Williamson, Muddy Waters, John Lee Hooker, and the rest is history, really. And I mean, I went further back than that, you know, and then started to come up with it, all the different styles, you know. So
one of the greats. I dedicate this one to Big Walter. Thank you. Easy. Try to put it in a little bit more my own style. Bravado.
And, and I found me little, me niche was actually Sonny Terry. And so I modelled myself on him in the folk clubs, and I still have a good repertoire of what I do today from Sonny, and I met up with him, all them years back, And he was a great, a real great thing for me, an experience to hear a real live blues man playing this sort of style, and it really got to me, so.
Did he have time for a young white lad from England?
Well, not really. When I met up with him, that was in the mid-70s or something like that. Him and Brownie were going through a bad patch, and I was just in awe of them two guys. So I sat in the dressing room with them and just let them. They were arguing, but that didn't mean a thing to me. I was getting little tips off what they were doing, and so things like that, But that was pretty cool.
How long was you with him for? Was it just a couple of nights, or?
Well, it was a little bit of a tour, and I was just a young lad coming up. I'd been doing the World Harmonica Championships out in Germany, and a mate of mine who was on the panel, Steve Rye. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yeah, that name's come up today. Yeah.
He was playing with the Groundhogs and John Lee Hooker. He was the harp player, but he was massively influenced by Sonny, and he became firm friends with him. And Sonny used to stay down in London with Steve at the time, And this harmonica championship, well, he was on the advisory panel. He was the judge, and I was playing some Sonny stuff. So when I put that into the competition, he just said, "You're in, man," So he put us in, and I went across to Germany and played with different people and that, and came back and then started the whole thing. I was still living in the Northeast then, and so I was doing the folk clubs. I mean, I was doing all like sort of folky country stuff, and then I moved on to the Chicago style, which that's a different thing that I moved on to.
Were your folks behind you back then when you was doing it younger?
Not really. No, they wanted me to get a proper job and go down the mines, That's my father was disgusted when he said, "Well, I'm playing the harmonica," and he said, "Well, that's not going to bring any money into the house, is it?" He said, "Going down the mines, you'll make some money, man." So I said, "All right." So I upped and left, and that was it.
But yet, obviously, from where you come from, going down south is quite a journey, isn't it, for a young person?
Well, then, yeah. I mean, even for me, where I was born up in Blythe, which was 15, 20 miles north of Newcastle.
Right.
When I was a young lad, traveling to Newcastle was a big deal. I mean, it wasn't like what it is today. I mean, the transport, you had to get about 14 buses to get there, and, and hitchhike the rest of the way or whatever it was, But, just travel's been part of the whole thing for me. I mean, since I moved down to London and from the Northeast, and then got in to meet different people, and then built my reputation up, and then moved on to into Europe, and then traveling all the time, So I think a traveling musician, like a blues man, is that's part of the game, Traveling is the main thing. I'm sure you know yourself, Tommy.
Yeah. Over the years, plenty of miles.
Yourself,
But no, the Sonny Terry, that must have been a great experience for you to, like you say, be with a real blues man and seeing how they do it for real in front of you.
Yeah, well, I met a few of them, when I was younger. I mean, I made friends with Junior Wells and Buddy and quite a few of those guys, Jimmy Rogers and all them guys, because I was, I started to make waves, I think in the late 80s, early 90s. And them guys were coming across to Europe and starting to make another scene for themselves, because they were all from the 50s, 40s and 50s, and but it started to go a bit flat for them, I think, in the 70s, 80s, when sort of punk or disco music was coming on, and so they lost it. But I think there was a little bit of a blues revival, I think about late 80s, early 90s. It was like me, with the King Snakes and Otis Grand, Big Joe Louie and his Blues Kings, and that's what, the big town playboys. That was starting a little thing. A boom was starting to happen.
Right. Okay. Blimey.
Well,
Did them old guys? Because now, I've been to that National Harmonica League once. We was doing a thing over there, and all the talk about all the techie stuff and all the things. But them old guys, I don't think they ever got into all that, did they? They just played acoustically, and they had the sound themselves.
Well, that's what it was. I mean, because if you think about it, them guys, there was no technology then.
Right.
They could only get it from listening to other players around. They would travel. Like I say, I've done interviews and I talked with Sonny, and all Sonny got, I mean, he was traveling on a sort of one of these medicine shows,
Yeah.
And he would only see, well, he couldn't see really, but you would hear players like Deford Bailey, Jazz Gillum, different players from the 30s and 40s or the 20s when he was traveling. And that's when he would get his experience from them. I mean, today, all the players, it is techno a little bit, each amp, a valve, a tube they can put into the amp. They can use a different microphone. They know which microphone, what element is in there. And these guys were just playing off the feel and feeling what they played. And that's, to be honest with you, Tommy, that's what I do, know. I mean, I'm coming from the old school. I'm playing what I feel and feel what I play.
Well, there's that saying, if it's in you, it's got to come out of you.
Well, John Lee Hooker said that, if it's in you. But I mean, if you're starting to, a lot of the guys, they fool around with amplifiers and say, well, if you're not using this amp, if you're not using it, that's bollocks. I mean, to me, it's what you've got behind it, the soul of the man behind it, and what he plays that's what counts. I mean, I can plug into anything. I mean, I do prefer Fender gear or static microphones if I'm playing amplified stuff, but I'll plug into something, and people say, oh, you shouldn't be using that, Paul. But they'll say, oh, that sounds fantastic. I say, well, that's me playing on there, So when I plug into something, it's not the amp, it's me that's behind it,
What Fender amps do you use?
Well, I've got I use a Fender Bassman. I've got a Fender Concert, a 410, different little amps and stuff. But most of my stuff, Tommy, comes from the acoustic style,
Yeah. Well, I've seen you play a number of times. And when you come out in the audience and stuff.
Yeah, and that's relating back to my roots from the folk clubs and stuff like that, and that's all there was up in the northeast that I got, So I was listening to the early players, like country players, folk blues, and that was it,
Yeah, no, I only ask because I'm a Fender man myself, and I think that am I right in saying that you have to change the amp a bit for harmonica somehow? Because like my guitar, I've had a Bassman. Can you just come and plug a harp straight into it, or do you have to?
I just plug a harp straight into it. I don't. A lot of harp players, because there again, we go about technology, and they're customized, or they're something's done with it, And I cannot use them amps. I use a stock amp. If it's a Bassman, it's set up exactly for a guitar,
right, okay.
And that's originally the Bassman was set up for a bass.
Yeah.
But it didn't work, and so they found in the 50s they found it was great for guitar and stuff and harp, exactly. But for me, all the amps that I have, they're just stock. They're built up on just a natural way of having it built up for the guitar, and I just plug into the normal channel and crank it a bit, because, as you know, these old amps, they don't have a master volume or anything like that. All they have is just volume. Well, all I use is volume and treble and bass, and then just crank it till it starts to distort naturally, and that's the sound I've got,
Right, okay. Yeah, because the amp I'm using now is a Vibra King, which is a 3x10.
Yeah, that's a nice amp. Any sort of tube amp, you're working with, it's pretty cool. And small amps, the Princetons and things like that,
So what's the biggest lesson you took away from being around Sonny?
Biggest lesson?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a musical one. Did you learn it? You know, what's the?
Nothing. He never really spoke. Because, well, we did talk about. He talked about friends and people that he missed that had gone by and stuff like that. But he didn't really, and I didn't want to push him too much about the harp or anything like that. He was getting on then, and him and Brownie were arguing, and I was just trying to be just talking in general, basically. I mean, we didn't really talk too much about the harp, you know. He was such a nice guy, just a real nice guy, you know.
The closest I got to being around the old blues guys was a 2-week tour with Mojo Buford.
Oh yes.
But he was a lovely guy.
Uh-huh.
You know, loads of stories about muddy waters and living in the same house with all of them.
Yeah.
There was one, he said, Hubert Sumlin come home and was asked Muddy could he live at the house. And Muddy said, why? And he goes, because my woman's back at my house with another fella and I'm in the cellar. And he said, if that was my bitch, I'd burn that house down with the bitch in it.
Well, that sounds about right. I mean, I met a few of them, you know, and all them stories they told. And a good one was Sonny and Brownie. I was in the dressing room with them this one time. It was in the 70s or something like that. And they used to wear these big hats, you know. Both of them had these big hats with zips on and things. And it was bulging, the hat. And I was always confused. I thought, curious about what they had in there, you know. And I said to Brownie, I says, hey, man, what do you got in that hat? And he says, come in the dressing room, I'll show you. You know, I thought, what's going to happen? And he unzipped it and he brought a bottle of scotch out, you know. and so he had like a bottle of cream or something in the other hat. And he brought that out and they poured in the dressing room, they poured the scotch and the cream into it. And then they drank it like that, you know. They like.
So he kept his drink in his hat.
Huh?
Kept his drink in his hat.
Oh yeah, but it was cool. I mean, I thought I was trying to think of things like that. I thought when I go on with the King Snakes, I'll put a big hat on as well, you know. But it'd be probably full of Lucasade or something like that, you know.
Put some idea on the 10-gallon hat, I suppose. So then, yeah, you got formed the Blues Burglars, but this is going back still. With Johnny Whitehall in
That's
the
right.
80s.
Whitehill,
yeah, and eventually became the Paul Lamb and the King Snakes. So, how did you go? How did it go from the Blues Burglars into the King Snakes?
Well, it wasn't that so much, Tommy. The early days when I was up in Newcastle, we were all. I'd just come back from Germany. That was 1976 or 77. And there was a few lads I was looking around at and playing. They were playing in bands, playing electric blues, you know, Chicago blues. So we got together. There was a gang of us, which was Johnny Whitehill, and we started playing this little bit of Chicago blues, like Muddy Waters, John Lee Hooker, a bit of B.B. King, all that, because Johnny was into that. And we started to mess around with that. So it started to get pretty cool. And then they started to make different names for it because I wasn't in charge of the band then or anything. So they called it Barfly, they called it this, they called it that.
Right.
And then we decided we called it the Blues Burglars, which was appropriate then because we were stealing all the little licks from all the blues guys from the 40s and 50s and 60s, you know. So we called it the Blues Burglars. Then we started to make a name for ourselves, traveling around the northeast, all them sort of places, and we're getting a name for ourselves and getting sort of airplay and different like things like that. And then a guy called Peter Scherzer from Red Lightning, he heard me playing and he decided to record because he was into Big Walter Horton, Shaky Horton. So that's another different story, another ball. So we recorded for him and we went down to London with the Burglars and we opened up for Junior Wells and Buddy Guy at Dingwalls. And I became friends with Junior and Buddy then. That was, I would say, 70s, late 70s, early 80s or whatever it was. And then it started to go around like that. And, I was getting a lot of airplay, like I say, my name was getting around. And we were starting to get breaks in the London area. So we came down with the Burglars, started working. And we were starting to get a lot of work. But the guys in the Blues Burglars, some of the guys had good day jobs. And they didn't want to move from that. They didn't want to take the chance. And to cut a long story short, me and Johnny Whitehill, we took the chance. We moved away from the Northeast. We came to London. And then it started off in the Station Tavern.
Yep.
And I started making my name as the Paul Lamb Blues Band. And I was recruiting different players that suited the style that I wanted, or me and Johnny. And we were putting this stuff together. And then we got the Paul Lamb Blues Band. Then I got a really good band together. And but the band that was with me at the time, they said they wanted a bit of an identity, and they didn't want to just be called a blues band. They wanted to be some other name. And so they decided on the name of the King Snakes. And so that came Paul Lamb and the King Snakes. And then I moved. Then the rest history, I started recording with different labels and touring the world and doing this and doing that under that name, So that's the way
'94. That was the next thing I wrote down on here. Harmonica Man.
Oh God!
But I had listened to it today, and I thought the riff and that was really good.
Yeah,
It's a dance track, isn't it?
Well, that's it. I mean, I didn't expect it. I mean, all I've done all my life was played this blues music and loved it, And the bonus on the side is making a little bit of money, But I was with the King Snakes then, but then somebody called me, which was Paula Reardon, producer, and she had this idea of doing this little thing with a harmonica with a backbeat behind it,
Yeah.
Bearing in mind that was '94, and it was all that sort of disco, but it and that went really wild. Well, at that particular time, she didn't know. She wanted a harmonica player that sounded like Sonny Terry. Now I didn't know her then, but she found out about me and came in, because at that particular time, what was in the charts was Cotton Eye Joe. Can you remember that song?
Yeah, yes, I can.
Banjo and stuff. Well, they stole that song from us.
Oh, okay.
And that went into the charts. They beat us into the charts, and that came a hit. But I made some money out of that. It went to the Kiss FM charts, and it went #1, and everything was played in this. And I couldn't believe myself, being a blues player, to hit the popular charts, the mainstream and all that. So I met up with who was signed up by Peter Waterman, and he used to go down to the West End and met up with Peter Waterman and play all these things. Kylie Minogue was there. There was this, there was that, and we got on a groove with that and started getting sort of worldwide play from it, So that made a name for myself as well, So
where did the riff come from?
Well, Sonny Terry, because
Okay.
that's what Paula wanted. She wanted this Sonny Terry's Hootin' the Blues, the 1948 version.
Oh, okay.
So I knew it anyway, so I was playing a little bit of it, sort of, it'd be sort of. mean, that's all broken down, but they put like a backbeat into that and made it more like sort of groove for the charts and stuff like that. So it worked pretty well, you know.
It sounded great. I mean, I liked it. I was just surprised when all the kick drum and all the other stuff come in. I thought, blimey.
Well, everybody sort of said Paul sold out on this one, you know, and I said, well, I haven't really. I says, I'm still doing my thing.
Yeah, definitely.
And I says, this come along the side, but I think people were a little bit jealous of that, so it made something out of it, you know, and I made a little bit of money for a change, you know, and that was it, you know. So
your last album I could find was live at the Albert Hall.
That's right.
Was that part of the Blues Festival?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And how did that go down?
Oh, fantastic. I mean,
great room to play in.
Great room to play. I was in awe of the place, so we had some pictures taken out there, you know. So at least that's one of them things I can say in my life, that I played at the Royal Albert Hall, you know. And it was a great gig. There was a lot of people there. Paul Jones came down to see me, interviewed me. He presented me with a harmonica on the stage, which was quite nice, you know. And so, you know, I mean, I played a lot of places around the world, but the Royal Albert Hall has something a little bit special, I think, you know.
Oh, that's cool. And the album, how's that done?
Well, I mean, you know, just selling as I do when I'm not traveling at the minute, of course, but traveling on the back of the wagon, you know, I mean, I sell pretty cool, and I've got a shop that I sell on the website, online, and that's selling pretty good, you know, so I'm quite happy with the way things are, you know.
And that's for people that be watching this, that's paullamb.com.
That's the one, yeah.
And then it tells you the shop and stuff.
That's right.
What are you planning next once the lockdown over? Did you have anything in mind for another album?
We haven't had nothing planned. Yeah, I mean, we had been traveling a lot, you know, touring and doing this and doing that, and nothing had come to plan, you know. Just the guys were just getting together and going out touring and coming back. I mean, I think probably we will, after this all blows over, we'll probably put some stuff together and bring another one out, you know. I mean, I was doing some solo stuff as well, because I've sort of went back to the country again, you know, and doing some solo stuff just on my own, you know, just maybe washboard and harmonica and me on vocals and that sort of thing, you know, because, you know, I'm quite versatile in that sort of style. I'm not just playing in that sort of West Coast or big amplified sound. I drop down into the country and play acoustic or whatever it is, you know. And myself and Chad as well, and my son, we do some duo stuff as well, you know, so that's pretty cool, you know.
So what books are you reading at the moment?
Books I'm reading. Well, I was away on holiday, and I'm quite fond of Jack Reacher.
Okay. Yeah.
So I've been reading quite a few of them, and Jack Frost. So I'm into them sort of thriller sort of things, you know.
Okay. Do you like them in movies as well?
Sorry?
Do you like the movies? The Jack Reacher?
I didn't see the movie of Jack Reacher, which I thought was a bit weird, having some sort of little guy portray Jack Reacher who's 6'5" or something, and I think what's his name again? I'm trying to think.
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise. I mean, he's a little guy, you know. Nothing against Tom; he's a great actor, but it just didn't seem right to portray the part of a
6
big
foot
guy.
Yeah. And then Netflix done another one called Jack Reacher, which was their own version of it.
All right, I didn't see that.
That's another
I
one.
just stuck with the books and stuff.
And what about TV? What are you watching through the lockdown?
Not a lot, really.
Not a lot, no?
Nah. I mean, you know, just listen to a bit of music and stuff, you know, just keep me head into that. My wife, she put on, there was something on there on Netflix where Ricky Gervais.
Oh, Life After something, or Afterlife, or?
Afterlife. That was fantastic. I got into that. I mean, I don't know if I'm an old sort of a miserable git or whatever it is, but maybe that's why I play the blues, you know, but I could relate to it, you know.
Do you have any other hobbies?
Yes, believe it or not, I'm a twitcher. I'm a bird watcher.
Okay.
And I used to, as a kid coming up, before I got into the harmonica, I was in the Young Ornithologists Club. That's when I was about 10, 11. And then I came into the RSPB, the Royal Society for Protection of Birds. And then I used to travel a lot, and I still do. On my travels, I still do that. And when I was about 14, I got into the Hancock Museum and I studied taxidermy.
Okay.
Stuffing birds. If you want to talk about that, we've been on the road. Maybe I was stuffing birds or whatever, but we'll not get into that. But I was stuffing, doing that, that sort of thing, And I was really, and I still do it now, watching in birds, and it's a fascinating hobby for me.
So do you like that BBC, was it Winter Watch and Spring Watch and all that?
Yeah, I watch all that. Watch the migratory patterns of the birds and stuff like that. And I was just saying to my wife this year, I never saw any swallows or swifts, and they usually come at the end of March, and I never saw anything till just the other day, them coming in. I couldn't really fathom it out why they didn't arrive earlier, but that's me.
What has been, jump back to music, what has been your hardest lesson you've had to learn?
Hardest lesson?
Yeah, like has there been something that you've hit a brick wall and you sort of stopped and?
I would say just some working with different musicians on the road, and I mean, Tommy, I've been like a band leader, a manager, driving, doing everything, and the hard thing is when some people don't respect that, and I've had a work class background, and someday when I've been on the road, there's some of the band members have getting into each other and started to really lay into me a little bit, and I let it go for a while, and I felt a little bit gutted about it, but then when I got more into it after the years, I became a strong man, and anybody that really pissed me off or did anything wrong to me, I got rid of them, and that was the only thing I could do, and I felt terrible after it, but that was the way it worked, and I've always worked, and I'm sure all the band members that have worked with me and the band members are with me today, I've always said to them, a happy shop is an efficient shop. We all got to work together. I mean, sometimes we've been traveling for like 9-10 hours on the road, and you start and get a little bit threadbare, they're sitting in the back, they start whinging on, moaning or whatever it is. And I say, well, we either do it or we don't, Don't come back to me next month and say we're going to do it, and when you're going to whinge on and stuff like that. I says, this is what it is. And I says, it gets hard, you get a puncture, you get this, we got a big traffic jam, we're stuck in the traffic jam for 5 hours, we're just getting on the stage. And they say, well, are we going to eat, Paul? I said, no, we haven't got time. I said, we're on the stage now, we'll eat later on. And all these guys that are with me now, they understand that, because it's took a long time for that to happen. But that is what it is, Being on the road, I'm sure all musicians that have been on the road a long time will understand what I'm saying about that.
Oh yeah, I've been in the same position, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it is hard because, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but like you say, you don't want to upset people, and we're quite chilled out people.
Well, I've got to be careful, because if I huff somebody and they're on stage and they might stick it in me and say he plays like shit or something like that, just because he's feeling like that. But the next day it's in the corner, and I tell him, and say it shouldn't work like this. And if you're not going to work like the way I want it to work, I might sound like I'm a hard case or something, but I'm not. It's just that's the way it has to work, because once you get on stage, people, if we've had a hard time traveling all day, you 10 hours, the audience that are coming to see you paid good money to come and see you. They're not interested in what you've done all day, traveling 10 hours and having an argument and fighting. They want to see a great show, and it's got to be showtime when you go on. And that's what I've always had to do, you know. So,
if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to a younger you?
Well, in the music you're talking about,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
because sometimes I would just say to some youth, just get a proper job, you know, because I mean, music is a bloody hard game, you know. But if you believe in what you believe in, and your spirit is there with that music, just go for it, hook, line, and sinker, and believe in it. Like I say, the way things are now, record a great album that you want to do. Probably you haven't got a record company behind you or anything like that. Put the money in yourself, get it mastered, great, and you're happy with it. Go on the road, sell it on the road and sell it online, and just do your thing, you know. If you believe in yourself, but if you're half-hearted, if you're half-hearted and you've got if you're thinking otherwise, don't do it. You've got to be a 1,000,000% to do it, and that's what I did. And it'll pay off. It has to pay off, because if you believe in something, it does pay off.
Has your wife been with you through a lot of your career?
I would say most of it. I mean, I was married before with my son was from the first marriage, Ryan Lamb. I was with his mother for 12 years, and I've been, well, actually, my wife now, we just got married 2 months ago. We were out in Barbados. We got married out there. We've been together for about 30 odd years, so I thought it was about the right time to tie the knot, you know. She got to know me.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things I was going to say. With maybe younger musicians is, you know, partners and.
Well, you have to have an understanding partner. You know, I mean, I'm not going into too much with my first wife, but she was younger, and me being out on the road it's very hard for a partner to be, you know, to accept that.
Yeah, yeah.
But my wife now, she was in a sort of similar. She had a career. She was in the fashion business, so she was out not touring, but doing her work all around the world, the Far East, America, everywhere, Australia. So when she was out, I might be at home, and when she came back, I was away out touring, and so it sort of balanced the whole thing out, you know. And I think that's how it works. If the both of you can work together and work that thing, you know. But if you've got a jealous sort of partner that isn't too happy with you being out there, you know, standing on stage, performing or whatever, it'll not work, you know, I don't think, anyway.
What two things in your harmonica case can you not live without?
What I can't live without?
Yeah. Probably. Obviously, don't say harmonicas.
Well, I would say in the harmonica bag, probably a B flat marine band and an A marine band. That would be in my harmonica bag.
Right. Okay.
I mean, you know, maybe it's a wash bag or something like that. I don't know. I kind of think anything in a harmonica bag that I wouldn't. That would be the main things I would have in there. You know, the two A and a B flat. You know.
How many harps do you carry of the same key?
Well, if I'm on a tour, I'll probably carry 2 or 3 of each keys.
Right. Okay.
Sometimes it can be weird. It can blow out. You can be playing them. I can be playing them for years and they'll not blow out. But there'll be one night, one blows out, the next one blows out just as quick, and so you know, you've got to be careful with it. You know.
And what is that? Is that where the reed just bends out of shape a little bit?
It just goes flat. You know, and it can just go flat overnight. You know. But you know, I usually carry, well, I would say about two of each key, and I'm carrying harps from A flat to G. So you're like talking A, B flat, B, C, D flat, D, E flat, F sharp, blah, 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 and you're going through the keys. And then I'd be having chromatics in there as well. So,
Okay. When you're recording, do you like to get involved with the sort of setup, or do you leave it to the engineer and producer?
Well, I haven't
like capturing your amp with microphones and all that sort of stuff.
Not really. I'll leave it with them. I'm not nerdy that way. I've got the sound that I want on the amp, and I says that's the way. I'm not looking at how to record it. I'll leave it to the engineer. I mean, I'm pretty fortunate. The drummer that I have, he's been with me for a while, Mike Thorne. He has
he's got his own studio.
Yeah, Rimshot Studios, and he can set that up for me. He knows the sound I want, okay. And he works live with me, and he knows what I require,
Is that where you record now then at his studio?
Well, the last one I did, there's a cat out there, is it?
Bloody cat, yeah, just woken up after 6 hours.
It's not Rick Estrin and the Night Cats, is it? But the last one I recorded wasn't. Mike didn't produce that one. It was from the Royal Albert Hall, and there was a different drummer on that. But I've done some stuff for Mike, which I'm probably going to do with him shortly. And me just going in playing some acoustic harp, and it'll just be an overhead mic hanging over, like an ambience mic, and just record it like they did in the 40s and 50s, just that sort of sound, And he knows how to get that sound, just the natural sound, and that's what I'm after. I'm not after anything exceptional,
How do you feel about being videoed on your live shows and then it ending up on Facebook or YouTube?
No, I'm not bothered.
That doesn't bother you?
No, that's what it is. I mean, some people are, they don't want it in case they've done a bad performance, but I says that's the performance I've done on the night, and I've always said I play the way I feel and feel the way I play, and if it's not on par, that's it, But most of the time I'm recording, I think it's pretty on par, So that's what I do.
For a beginner learning the harmonica, what would be the first thing you recommend they learn?
Well, just if they're wanting to play blues, especially, get themselves involved with a guy that they really like. I mean, not chopping and changing. I mean, getting into a player, preferably an acoustic player. Pick an A harmonica, which I would do. Playing cross harp, which we can go into all them different details.
That's where you play like is it a fifth above or a fourth above?
Yeah, that's it. The second draw is the root note. So if you're playing an A harmonica, the guitarist is playing an E, and your root note would be the second draw, which would be E. And working on that, and finding a guy who plays that acoustic style would be, for me personally, would be Big Walter Horton, Shaky Horton, or Sonny Terry, and picking up one of their albums and fooling around with it. Because most of the time when Terry was playing, well, a great one, which I'll just say now, is called Brownie McGee and Sonny Terry Sings, and I always relate to that. I mean, that was the holy grail for me. That's where I got all my stuff from.
Right.
And most of the stuff Terry's playing on there is an A harp in cross position, and just fooling around with it, and you'll get some of the notes. You'll not get them perfect. You'll not get them this. You'll not get them that. But if you work with it, you relate to it, and once you get into that style, you can start to relate to the other players, because basically all them harp players like Jimmy Cotton, Big Walter, Little Walter, they were playing the same thing. All they were doing was just changing it a little bit to suit their own style, but they were playing the same notes. They were just phrasing it a little bit different to give them their own style. It's like a guitar player or a piano player. They might master one player, and then once they've mastered one of the players, one of the greats, they can easily adapt to the other player, to the other style, because they're all playing the same. They're playing the same root notes. They're playing this. The harp is the same. The guitar licks are the same. they're just bending it differently or putting it into like BB King or something. BB for me was a master of that one tone style. That one, he could bend it, and he killed the place with one note, you know. Not a million notes like some of them play. A lot of the million notes that are playing, they're great, but they're not meaning anything. BB would just bend that one note and make it stand there for about 10 minutes, and it would kill you, you know. And that's what I'm after. Same like harp players or whatever. Then big tones that Big Walter played. Listen to Big Walter, like I'm saying about the harp players, and listen to Terry, and you'll get that, you know. And you're not masked with anything like amplifiers. It's when you hear them from the recording acoustically, it's what you would hear them like playing in the sitting room or something like that, you know.
Right. Okay. Well, how different are the harps from back then to today?
They are different. When I first started getting into them, they were called Echo Supervampers, and they were made with bell metal reeds, and that's what the players were using. Well, that was the English term, the Echo Supervamper, but in the US it was the Marine Band, but they were the same model. Most of them were the same model, were based on the same thing, using the same metal, using this, using that. And when I first started getting them, they were pretty cool. They were nice. I could bend them and stuff like that. And then later on in the 70s, 80s, they were mass produced, and they started to use cheaper alloys in them. And you couldn't bend them. They were terrible. They were flat. You couldn't get a good harmonica. But I think harmonica became popular, as I say, it moved into that sort of boom into the 90s, and they're good quality at the minute. They're pretty good, and I'm fortunate. I mean, I endorse Horner, so I get them free. But you know, so you know, and they're in pretty good standard. They're good now. Not like I say, in the 70s and stuff, they were hard to work with. You know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I just wondered because he's saying picking out the old style. I know with some of the guitar stuff, it's hard to capture the same what tunings they're in and stuff.
Yeah.
The harmonica, I wondered, was there a lot of difference between the old harps and today's harps for people picking it out by ear?
The ones I got, like I said, were made with bell metal reeds, and they were from the 50s and 60s, and I was fortunate to get some of them, and I've still got them today. And I mean, they lasted forever. I mean, I don't know whether that's the way they work with things today, because not built to last, so you're purchasing more, you know, so you know what it's like. So
right, yeah, because I also read about, is it Kim Wilson, them, that they file them down and the reeds or do something?
Well, they might, I doubt. Kim will probably have somebody doing it for him. I don't think, you know, I mean, it's like me. There's a guy called John Cook. He works for Horner. And what I do, I have the old style Marine bands, and I just send them, when they go flat, I just send them to him. And he just does them all up, puts the reeds in, sets them all up, and they're ready to go again, you know. And that's the best way. Instead of me, I mean, I can get, you know, they can send me a brand new one from the shelf, but it's easier for me just to send a batch of them when they're flat. I send them down to John, and he just does them up. He's done them in a week. I send back to me, and he always has a stock always flowing around for me, so I've already got a steady flow of good tuned harps, you know. So that's it. Fortunate, lucky bastard.
Lucky git, yeah. The greats like Walter and Terry had sounds all their own. Do you know who their inspirations could have been then?
Yeah,
guys.
Yeah, of course.
You named a few earlier, I think, from the medicine show days.
Well, that's what I was saying about the medicine shows. I mean, Terry would have come from DeFord Bailey, J. Bird Coleman. They were pre-war players. I mean, Terry was a pre-war player as well. But he would have come from, which is a great harp freak that I love, was Noah Lewis from Gus Cannon's Jug Stompers, you know. And they were from the 20s, from Beale Street and stuff. So Terry would have been, it's all handed down. And little Walter, and Big Walter, would have been coming from John Lee Williamson, Sonny Boy the First, not Rice.
Good Morning Little Schoolgirl.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff, you know. And he'd be coming from that sort of I mean, that's a rough version, and that's the way John Lee played. You know, it was that sort of rough style. But he was the big guy in Chicago from the 40s who he played with Big Joe Williams, and he also played with Big Bill Brunsey, and he was the hot cat at that particular time in the 40s. And well, it was the 40s because he died late 40s, and all them players like Little Walter, Junior Wells, Jimmy Cotton, all them guys, they would have been young guys, just probably about 12, 13, getting into the little juke joints or whatever and seeing him play there. That was my other thing as well. Blues was a passion for me. I mean, I delved into all that sort of stuff because when I first started, I wasn't sure what to play. I wasn't sure to play the harmonica or not. I tried piano, tried guitar. So I was listening to all them early players, you know, like the guitar players, really. You know, I mean, you know, Sam Hopkins as well. I mean, he was like the 40s and 50s, but early players like, you know, Blind Lemon Jefferson, you know, Blind Blake.
Blind Blake's great. Yeah.
But
Pink
my
Anderson.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, they're coming from the Carolinas, you know.
I've got mine.
Yeah. I mean, my style, like I say, I was listening to them ragtime players from the East Coast, which was Blind Blake. It was weird, they were all blind, you know.
Bo Carter, another one.
Yeah. Buddy Moss, all them guys, you know, and they were from the East Coast, the Piedmont area, the tobacco fields. And that style came, you know, from where Terry's style came from, you know. And that's what later on came to my sound, which I call like, there's a bounce in it, you know, there's a rhythmic pattern, and they all had that sort of ragtime sort of playing style, you know, so that's where it came from.
I was going to say, if you could go back in time and pick only one or two harp players to sort of teach you as a teacher, which ones would you choose?
Probably Noah Lewis, the early players, and I'm trying to think there would be another player, Bobby Leakin and Cooksey, and they were really early players from the 20s, and they played, it was all straight playing, it wasn't, it was all melodic playing, not like the cross harp style, you know. Yeah. They were playing like tuneful sort of songs, you know, like, you know, not just playing bending notes and stuff like that. You know?
And if you were starting out today, who would be your influences?
If I was starting out today,
yeah, if you was a young harmonica player today, who would you look at?
I would have to. I mean, I'd have to go back to Sonny. You know, Sonny, Big Walter, and Noah Lewis. They had that big sound. I mean, because that's what I've got today. That's what I've heard, and I couldn't. If I was listening to players today, I can hear they're inspired by them players anyway, you know. So I would say I didn't change that way. It would be Sonny, Big Walter, and Noah Lewis, and them three guys would be the ones that I would be aiming at, you know.
Right. And would you recommend learning from tab or just letting your ears pick it up?
Letting your ears. That's what I did. I mean, when I was a kid coming up, there was nothing. I wasn't like what the kids have got today. I mean, I didn't have videos. I didn't have anything. All I had was when I was living up in the Northeast, all I had was a Dansette record player, which I stayed when I was living at my mother's, and just putting the needle back and forth, trying to imagine what it would be like, you know, and trying to get at this. And I ruined the record. But obviously, because that's the only way I could do it.
But you got the riff.
But I got the riff. then I got the stick in it, you know, where it was. So I was playing the on the harmonica as well, you know. So, but what the kids have got today, they're fortunate. They can just look up there. They can go back and forth, and get it and get it and get it and get it, you know, and they've got it. But what sometimes they lack is that heart. You've got to have that feeling, that spirit, and I'm sure, Tommy, you're the same with the guitar. That spirit has to be there, you know, because if you haven't got that feeling, and if you're just playing off the cuff, it doesn't work for me. Well, it didn't work for me, and I'm sure you're the same, you know.
Yeah. What would be your desert island disc?
Well, like I say, it would be on Folkways would be Brownie McGee and Sonny Terry Sings.
That'd be your one album you'd take.
Yeah, I could listen to that all day long and not get sick of it. Just keep it going, you know. And for harp players, acoustic harp players, or any harp player wanting to move in, purchase that, man, on Folkways. Or look at all Folkways stuff. That was all from Moore's Ash and all that sort of style from the 40s right through to the 50s, you know. So fantastic stuff, beautiful stuff.
Is there a difference between the styles and techniques and musical language of UK and US harp players?
I don't think so. I mean, like I've always said, I mean, the US players, they've all had it on the doorstep, you know. I mean, you know, I'm talking about Rod Piazza, William, Kim Wilson, an old good friend, Jerry Portnoy, all good friends of mine. Well, Jerry worked with money, so I mean, how much closer to the blues can you get than that, you know? So Rod would step out of his door, Rod Piazza, and he would say George Smith. Kim would pop out the door and say Junior Wells or whatever it was, who I was playing, or Jimmy Cotton. Whereas me, I came from the northeast of England, and I'm not a prejudiced guy. And the only black guy I saw was my father and my grandfather coming out the mine. And they were black because of the coal dust, you know. But my heart and spirit lay in that country blues music from America, that country blues stuff. So that's where I was getting my stuff from. So therefore, for me personally, as a harmonica player, my style isn't different to the American, because I'm listening to the American player. Some of the British players are listening to British players, so they would obviously have a British attitude to that, you know, like a punky, rocky sort of thing, like I'm talking about. Dr. Feelgood, Lee Brillo had a very sort of punky sort of harmonica sound or whatever it was, you know. So that would be, if he had sat down and listened to the earlier players, he probably would have had it. But his style was what it was, and he was successful with that. So why did he want to change it, you know? But getting back to what you were saying, Tommy, my style would not be different to any of the American players, or the American players to my style, really. No.
Well, what I normally do at the end of the interview is a quick fire question. Cash or card?
Cash.
Silence or conversation?
Conversation.
Love or money?
Love.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
You're a morning or night person?
Morning.
Morning. Sonny Terry or Little Walter?
Sonny Terry.
Every time. Thank you. Well, I hope that wasn't too painful.
Oh, it's fine, Tommy.
You know.
It was all right for you. I hope it worked for you, did it?
Yeah, definitely going to work. I mean, it's lovely to sit and talk to you, you know, like this, and I could talk to you for hours, really.
Oh, we haven't touched
You know.
anything yet, really. I mean, I got loads of stories and things like that, you know, but...
I mean, like I say, I've met you, well, the first time I saw you, I was probably, I don't know, 15. And I was working at a blues club in my own town of Basingstoke, and my mum got me a job there, just lifting the equipment in for the bands, and that's how I got into meeting the musicians.
Mm-hmm.
And you were one of the bands that played there,
Uh-huh.
Along with loads of others over the years. But I remember your band,
Mm-hmm.
and we had Little Charlie and the Nightcats played there one time as well. And Jimmy Witherspoon was another one that was there another time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met you again up North Way, and then I saw you, I think,
Was that Keithley or something?
Yeah, somewhere where we was talking, and then I met you, and then I watched you and saw you at the Bronte Blues Club, I think it was, or around that way.
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
So we crossed paths, but not as often as I'd like. Now I'm sort of older and can chat to you more about all this stuff. But I love what you do, and thank you for all the years of the music you've sort of given everybody.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, Tommy. I mean, that's all I've done, for 45 years or more, being on the road and respecting the music that I play, because it's a spiritual music. It's feeling, and that's what I've done, and it's great as well. James Harmon and Knockout Greg and all those guys, because we're all hung out together, James, I hung about with him quite a bit, and Gene Taylor from the Thunderbirds and all those guys, so
Yeah.
I worked with Gene as well, with Louisiana Red, and we had some time together, it was great, fantastic, great.
We'll promote the websites, paullamb.com. Oh, before you go, do you give lessons? Because people watching, how do they get hold? Is it through the website or?
Yeah, just through the website.
What, just contact you and that comes straight to you?
Yeah, paul@paullamb.com. Just put it on. I teach. I've been doing it for years, but I had been, as I say, when I'm working, touring, I haven't got the time, but now I've got plenty of time, so I've got plenty of lessons on at the minute. But if anybody wants to come in, no problem. Any styles, I'm talking about any of the blues styles or a bit of jazz or whatever it is.
Right. That's great, man. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and look after yourselves.
And you.
Where's the thumbs? Hold them up higher. There they
are.
All
right. There.
We love what you're doing, man.
Yeah, all the best, Tommy. Thank you very much, sir. All the best. Bye now.
Hey, it's Tommy Allen from TommyAllenMusic.com. That was Paul Lamb from Paul Lamb and the King Snakes. You can find out more about him and his music at paullamb.com. Go check that out. Next week, we have Ainsley Lister, great guitar player from the UK. We sure had fun doing this video, and come and check that out next Wednesday at 7 p.m. GMT. Please give us a like, hit the subscribe button. Until next week, a word from our director.
Goodbye.